Hi, my name is. Ah!
Hey YouTube, and happy Valentine's Day, or Single Awareness Day, whatever you want to call it. Well, over the next few days, I'm going to have a lot of videos lined up, so be sure to keep your eye out. But the main focus of today is to go over something that you may have seen in stores, or may not, whichever. But they're called mini roses. And from what I've heard, they're well, you take care of them just like regular roses, so I'm going to go over certain things you should do when you buy a mini rose, how to transplant, and also maybe how to take cuttings. And then I'll keep you updated as time goes on so we can actually get into it. So, okay, let's get into it. Alright, so here we are on none other than my floor, because I have nowhere else to do it. And here's the mini rose. As you can see, it's quite a big plant for the size pot it's in. It's in a 4-inch pot. Most of them that you see at the store usually are. But that is also because mini roses don't usually get that big. Depending on the kind, it can get anywhere from 1 foot in every direction to maybe 4 feet. But like I said, it really depends on the kind. I'm not sure what kind I have. If I can keep it alive, I will find out soon. But a few things that you want to look for when picking out your mini rose is you want to make sure that the leaves are nice and healthy. They have to be really green. You want to make sure that none of them are really turning yellow, have like black spots, which is a kind of fungus that roses are pretty well known for, I guess, when they're kept outside. But I'm keeping this one inside, so hopefully I won't have that problem. But anyways, you want to make sure it has healthy leaves. When you shake the pot, nothing should really fall out. Another thing you should really look for is because it's in a store environment, a lot of things could actually get to it, like certain types of bugs, and if you're keeping it inside, you don't want to bring those bugs inside. So one other thing I suggest is if you just look underneath each of the leaves, well, not each of them, but a majority of the leaves, if you see any white dots or, you know, something on the leaves, that might be something that you really don't want in your house, so always be aware of that. The one thing that I will say is that most stores don't actually water a lot of their plants, which is why they throw most of them away. So if you get one that looks slightly dry, like mine does, that's okay. You can always water it when you get home. Or you can do, this is actually one of the perfect times to transplant it into a bigger pot. Like I said, it's a bigger plant to a smaller pot, so we really want to give it some room to grow, and that's why I got to transplant it. So a few of the things that we're going to do is number one, I'm going to show you a transplanting method that I've been using for quite some time. I didn't get to show it last time, but I can now. Number two is I'm going to try to take a few cuttings from the rose because, well, I can get into that in a bit. And number three is I'm just going to get a really nice healthy soak. So, okay, let's go on. Alright, so here we are. It's all nice and transplanted. Now you may be wondering what I used as a pot since I said I don't have any bigger pots. What I actually used is just part of a 2-liter bottle. Things that you could do are just cut off the top. You can make it to the appropriate size. I wanted to give it a few more inches on the bottom to grow. And I noticed that it also gives it time to expand to the side. Now, I know what most people say is that light is really bad for the roots. And although that is true, I've been using this method for a long time, and it works for me. So if it works for me, I'm gonna do it. If it doesn't work for you, don't do it. But like I said, this is an experimental channel. If you want to experiment, maybe use a lesser plant. I don't know, an easier plant. How about that? I would suggest using it with like a tomato or something that sprouts relatively easy. So, but yep, all nice and transplanted. So what you're going to want to do after you transplant it is give it a nice and thorough watering. Make sure that whatever pot you're using, whether it be 2-liter bottle or actual pot, you want to make sure it has a nice, good drainage system. So if it is just a 2-liter bottle, then you want to poke several holes at the bottom of the cup and make sure they're actually not plugged up in any way so water can flow through it. Because one of the things that you don't want to happen, like what happened to my cherry tomatoes, is it will be flooded. The soil at the, that you can actually see, it may seem dry, but if you were to dig your finger in like an inch, it's actually still pretty wet. So make sure you have good drainage, make sure that your soil mixture also has a lot of, it's fluffier, let's put it that way. The soil mix I used, since the mini rows already came in a pot pretty much full of peat moss, I kind of took a lot of that off, just to see what the root system was like. I noticed that the roots on the side were kind of, I don't know, they looked different. It seemed that some of them weren't doing too well, so, I opened them up, or opened up the soil. Then I used a mixture of real compost garden soil, but part of vermiculite to keep the soil nice and fluffy, and then just some of my own peat moss. What you're going to want to do before you use peat moss, though, is wash it. If you want to know how to wash it, it's a pretty simple process. I'm not going to get too into it now. But what you're going to want to do is put it into a 5-gallon bucket or something. Just rinse it out with preferably distilled water. All the good parts going to, just mix it around for a bit, dump it, but keep the soil or the peat moss in the container, and you just do that a few more times, and that'll make it nice and clean and easier to work with. Okay, so on to the next part, which is going to be taking off any stragglers, I would say. Like, if you could see these flowers, they're just kind of falling over. They're starting to turn like a yellow. They look pretty much dead. So what you're going to want to do is, like I said, search the plant for anything that appears dead. You're going to want a really nice pair of sharp pruners. I don't really have any pruners. I'll be getting some soon though. So what I'm going to use instead is super sharp bonsai scissors, and for the bigger things I'm actually just going to use really sharp, more sterile scissors. So let's get into it. Whenever you make a cut on it, you want to make it at a 45-degree angle. That's what everyone says to do, and apparently it works out really well for them. Something about it keeps the plant from getting infected or something like that. I don't know. Just know 45 degrees. So, okay, here's a dying rose. Bringing it back to the first set of leaves, I'm just gonna snip at a 45. And that's all you gotta do. So just go around, do that for any yellow leaves, any dying flowers, and see you in a second. Alright, so I went through and I took care of anything that looked dead, dying. I cut it back to where the actual stem part is, so it should be okay now. I know that I said that I was going to see also about taking some cuttings and rooting them. I do have several methods to do that, but sadly this plant is not tall enough right at the moment. I did find a tag for it though. It says it's a parade rose, a Rosa hybrid. So just some generic things that's true with all roses are, once the soil is dry to an inch down, you want to give it a nice thorough soaking. Place it in a really bright light. So if you have a light system like I do, which is just the 4-foot shop lights, then it should do fine. That's what seems to be doing really well for all my other plants. The actual size expectancy for this kind of rose is just 1 foot in each direction, so it's not really going to get too much bigger, which is going to be okay. And then once it does get a little bit bigger though, I'm going to let it establish its roots so it can start growing more, and by that time I will then show you several methods to take cuttings of it. Probably a few cuttings from black cherry tomatoes as well. And I will also get into fertilizing it and such in one of my next videos, so be on the lookout for that. Okay, so that's really it for mini roses. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I think I've said all that I can really say about them. They're just pretty much like roses, but smaller. I know that a lot of people say that roses have a lot of problems with them, associated with them, between like different types of fungus that usually infects them, and a few other things, but I'm experimenting right now just to see how it goes, and I think it's going to be fine. So, any idea of what my next few videos are going to be? Here's a hint. One is a organic fertilizer. Um, it's a seaweed extract. So I've been using it on my plants for a week and a half now, and they really took a liking to it. So anyway, that's next video. And just a little something is... Now, I'm not going to say anything about it now, only that it's going to be good. Okay. And the one last video that I really need to do is a complete and total update. So if you just post in the comments which one you'd like to see first, and I will get to it. If you're actually wondering what the green stuff I held up, it's a Japanese soda. So your three choices are the Japanese soda, seaweed extract fertilizer, complete and total update, including several new plants and one plant I'm babysitting? Plant sitting? I don't know. Okay, three choices. Leave it in the comments below. See you next time.